My brother locked me in the closet during church service. My parents laughed. You deserve this. Emily sat in the crowded church, the scent of fresh coffee mingling with the familiar notes of old wood and singing voices. It was a warm Sunday morning, and laughter bounced around the hall like a game of tag. Families gathered. Kids whispered secrets, and the choir's harmonies echoed through the rafters. But there she was, a shy 15-year-old girl, feeling like an island while her parents mingled with their friends. Bright smiles and animated gestures painting a scene of family unity. Her younger brother, Jake, was the embodiment of mischief. He wiggled beside her, his eyes glinting with a plan that sent jolts of anxiety through her. "What if I—" he began, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Emily shot him a warning glance, sensing trouble. Then it happened. While the pastor's voice floated above, a murmur mingled with rustling pages. Jake decided it would be... He laughed. Panic surged as darkness enveloped her. "Jake, let me out!" she shouted, thumping on the door, heart racing like a runaway train. The world outside dimmed, replaced by the echo of her own voice. She could hear her family, her parents chuckling at her misfortune. The words, "You deserve this," ringing in her ears like a taunt. Caught in the inky blackness, betrayal seethed in her chest. Her thoughts spiraled. How could they find humor in her torment? She focused on the chorus of the service outside, the gentle swells of music mixing with laughter. Was that a choir in the background? Shadows danced beyond the door, a flicker of feet that made her heart leap. As moments slipped by, the echoes of casual conversations drifted in and out, whispers swirling like ghosts. Each muted voice carried snippets. "I heard the choirs moving. Did you see Jake?" And for a second, she felt a sense of dread claw at her throat. Was this her life now? Alone in a closet while the world celebrated outside? The door creaked slightly, and her breaths quickened. A staccato rhythm of fear. A shadow stretched over the crack. Was someone actually coming for her? She strained to hear, desperately wishing to catch a word, an explanation, something to ease her turmoil. The last remnants of her brother's laughter faded into an unsettling silence, leaving her feeling more trapped than before. Who lurked just beyond her makeshift prison? Emily's palms were And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Emily's heart thudded in her chest, a relentless drumbeat in the dark. She strained to listen, hoping someone would hear her cries. But only muffled laughter and the sweet notes of hymns drifted through the walls like an unwelcoming ghost. Just as despair threatened to swallow her whole, the door creaked open a sliver. Light spilled in, momentarily blinding her. "Jake?" she called, her voice a shaky whisper. But it wasn't Jake. A tall figure stood silhouetted in the doorway, casting an ominous shadow over her. Her breath caught in her throat. It was Mr. Thompson, the church janitor, with an unsettling grin plastered across his face. "Thought I'd find you here," he said, an edge of amusement dancing in his tone. "Let me out," she pleaded, panic tightening her chest. He stepped closer, the light revealing a glint of something metallic in his hand. "You're in a bit of trouble, aren't you?" He chuckled low, a sound that crawled under her skin. "Jake did this, please!" Mr. Thompson leaned against the doorframe, his eyes narrowed. "This isn't about Jake, Emily. It's about you." Confusion crashed over her like a wave. Just then, heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor. Emily's heart soared at the familiar sound of her parents' voices. They were coming to save her. But instead of reassurance, she overheard fragments of their conversation, like jagged pieces of a shattered mirror. "We have to protect her, keep her under control." Her father's tone was serious, tense. "You know what's at stake." "No one can know," her mother added, a sharp edge lacing her words. "She can't find out." Was this about her? A sick feeling curled in her stomach. What did they mean? Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the hallway, the sound of a door slamming shut. It was drowned out by the murmur of a crowd outside, and the atmosphere shifted ominously. The choir's song faltered, replaced by a whispering hush that rippled through the room. Emily's eyes darted back to Mr. Thompson, who wore a knowing smirk. The truth always finds a way out, doesn't it? He stepped back, and she caught a reflection of fear and urgency on his face, a stark contrast to his earlier taunting demeanor. Before she could contemplate his words, an alarm rang out, piercing the sunny atmosphere. Panic erupted, voices shouting and rushing. She glimpsed terrified faces as people bolted towards the exits. "What's happening?" she breathed, looking up at the janitor. He hesitated. The door forgotten behind him. In that moment, chaos swirled. A scream split the air. A girl's voice, desperate. Her heart raced. "Is it about the church?" she blurted out. "No, it's about you. You have to get out of here, Emily." Mr. Thompson's tone shifted from menacing to urgent, a primal fear etched on his features. Suddenly, something heavy slammed into the door, rattling the hinges. "What are you waiting for? They're coming!" Before she could respond, he yanked the door wide, and the rush of bodies collided with panic. With no thought, he grabbed her wrist and pulled her into the chaos, just as the lights flickered and plunged them into darkness. The last thing Emily saw was her brother's face, wide-eyed and terrified, standing amidst scrambling parishioners. As they plunged deeper into the fray, a sharp, ear-piercing sound cut through the tumult. A gunshot. Instinct kicked in. Her world spun out of control. What truth was hidden in the dark? And why had her family grouped her with something so fraught? What did they want to hide? "Keep moving," Mr. Thompson urged, his grip around her tightening. In the pandemonium, she felt the sting of betrayal and fear slashing through her. What awaited them outside? Questions tumbled in her mind like marbles, racing away from her grasp. Was she really safe? Or was this just the beginning of a terrifying revelation? Emily's heart raced as Mr. Thompson yanked the closet door wide. Chaos erupted around her. The church transformed into a whirlwind of panic. Bodies surged past, eyes wide with fear, fingers clawing at the walls of their own safety. The stench of sweat and shadow loomed, and in the chaos, every heartbeat thundered in her ears. "Keep moving!" Mr. Thompson shouted, dragging her towards the exit through the mess of people. She stumbled, her mind racing with questions, every second feeling like an eternity. She was caught between wanting to confront him and the instinct to trust him in a time of crisis. Outside, the sun blazed against the growing din, but the warmth felt like a false promise. The air was thick with something electric, a deep sense of foreboding that sunk its claws into her stomach. Suddenly, a different kind of scream sliced through the crowd, sharp, and in that moment, everything shattered. "Mom!" Emily cried, breaking free from Mr. Thompson's grasp. She rushed forward, heart pounding in her throat, heavy with dread. "What happened?" Her mother's gaze locked onto Emily. A haunting mix of fear and something else. Was it regret? "You shouldn't be here," she exclaimed, almost pleading. "You need to go." Confusion flooded Emily as she edged closer. "What happened? Tell me!" But her mother's lips trembled, refusing to answer. Just then, the crowd parted, revealing a police officer forcing his way through the tangle of bodies. "Everyone stay calm! We need to get you all outdoors!" But it was too late. Emily's heart clashed with the uncertainty in the air. Her mother gripped her wrist, frantic now. "You don't understand! You have to trust me. Go with Mr. Thompson." But the janitor's face was twisted with an expression she couldn't quite read. Was it concern or something darker? As chaos reigned, Emily felt a tug on the thread of the moment, unraveling everything she thought she knew. What was her mother hiding? What did she know that made her panic so intensely? Just then, the janitor's voice cut through like a knife. "They have a plan for her. You need to take her away." Before Emily could process those words, a piercing siren echoed, and anxiety surged like a tide. And in that moment, everything shifted. A figure rose above the crowd, a woman in a dark coat, eyes cold and calculating. She raised a glimmering object, something dark and metal, catching the sun. "Get the girl!" shouted the woman, a voice smooth as silk, but filled with steel. The world morphed into chaos as Emily's mind faltered. Her mother's grip tightened, but the horror in her eyes pierced through. "Run, Emily!" she screamed. In a split second, everything fell away, and in that shocking moment, betrayal bubbled to the surface. The woman's eyes locked onto Emily. It felt personal. Emily bolted, adrenaline driving her forward, but still she felt the weight of secrets spinning, twisting around her. With every step, the truths clawed at her, begging to be uncovered. Who was the woman? And what was the plan? Time slowed as Emily plunged into the raw pulse of uncertainty. In a world where nothing was as it seemed, what was the price of the truth? And would she survive it? Emily bolted, heart racing. A pulse of fear driving her deeper into the chaos. She could still hear her mother's frantic voice ringing in her ears. But the world around her blurred in a whirlwind of panic. The figure in the dark coat loomed closer, eyes locked on her, a predator stalking its prey among the throngs of terrified parishioners. "Get the girl!" The command echoed like a death knell, a siren piercing through the storm of shouts. The crowd surged, pushed by raw instincts to flee. Yet in that chaotic moment, a sharp noise split the air. A loud crack, followed by... Emily's body froze as she turned, eyes wide, searching for the source. A figure crumpled to the ground, colliding hard with the church's polished floor. It was Jake. Fear clawed at her chest, threatening to suffocate her. "Jake!" she screamed, pushing her way through the throng, desperation fueling her movements. But he didn't move. Her legs felt like lead, but she couldn't stop. "No, no!" Her panic-filled breaths echoed as she surged towards him. She reached his side, cradling his head in her hands. Warmth spread on her fingers, red pooling beneath them. "Emily," he whispered, his voice weak, broken. "What happened?" Tears streamed down her cheeks, soaking into his hair. "Stay still, please, don't talk." But every word was like a fresh wound. The cacophony around them faded as dread closed in. She glanced up, and the crowd stood suspended, frozen, shocked faces staring at the scene playing out before them. And then she saw her mother meeting her father's desperate gaze, horror etched on both their faces. But it wasn't the panic that struck deepest. It was their silence. Their shared understanding in that moment, as if they knew something Emily didn't. Why weren't they moving? Why weren't they there with her? "Help! Somebody help!" she screamed, her voice cracking, rising above the whispering chaos. But then the woman in the dark coat stepped forward, unbothered by the horror unfolding at her feet. Chillingly calm, she surveyed the chaos. "This is what happens," she said, her voice smooth, laced with an unsettling authority, "when you meddle in affairs you shouldn't." "Get away!" Emily shouted, clutching Jake's hand, panic rising like bile in her throat. "What do you want? He's just a kid." "Kid?" The woman's laughter sliced through her. "Oh, Emily, you really don't know, do you? He is the key to everything." A tremor coursed through Emily, her skin prickling with the weight of her words. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Suddenly, Mr. Thompson emerged from the shadows, eyes wide with dread. "You need to get out of here, now!" He grabbed her shoulder, his grip firm but not painful. "They're coming for all of you." Emily's head spun, the air thick with confusion and fear. "No, I can't leave him!" But before she could protest, the woman turned her gaze on the janitor. "You think you can protect her? It's too late for that." With a swift motion, she pulled a small device from her pocket, a humming light flickering ominously in her palm. In an instant, the world around them erupted in chaos. The lights above flickered and burst, plunging them into pitch darkness. Screams filled the air, and amidst the turmoil, Emily caught a glimpse of something sharp flashing in the woman's hand, glimmering like a knife in the panic. "Move!" Mr. Thompson urged, pulling Emily away from Jake. But in that moment, she felt a weakening grip, a shudder running through her brother's form. "Jake!" she cried, her heart pounding, racing with disbelief as the shadows closed around them. A darkness deeper than night itself seemed to seep from the very walls. And as she fought against Mr. Thompson's hold, a horrifying realization dawned. What if Jake was the true target? "Emily, please," her brother gasped, his voice thin. "You have to." But then, just as swiftly as it started, everything shifted. The sudden slam of a door, the commotion outside, fading to an unsettling hush. In the stillness, a new sound emerged, a mechanical whir rising. Then she saw it, figures emerging from the corners of the church, dressed in dark uniforms, faces obscured, straining towards them. Emily's heart sank. It was them. Whoever they were, they had come to take her brother. As the reality crashed over her, a question hung heavily in the air. What truth had she been blind to all along? And in this moment of revelation, would it tear her family apart or bind them together in ways they never expected? Emily's heart raced. Caught in the grip of chaos, the shadows closed in, dark uniforms merging into an unapproachable threat. The crowd was alive with panic, but a hollow fear twisted within her. As she struggled to process the chaos, the oppressive weight of uncertainty settled over her like a shroud. "Get the girl!" The command rang out again, tightening around her like a vice. She could barely register the horror muffling Jake's gentle breathing beneath her fingers. "Stay with me," Emily urged, desperate to keep him from slipping away. The world around her faded, narrowed to just him, her brother, who looked so small and scared. Through the haze of confusion, something shifted. A crack echoed behind her, sharp against the silence. The sound of a door bursting open. A figure stepped forward, backlit by the tumult of frightened faces. It was a man, towering and grim, his posture radiating a sense of dark authority. "Contact the perimeter," he ordered, voice low but laced with urgency. "We can't let her escape." Just then, a siren began to wail. A frenzy of footsteps pounded through the hall, the kind that made every nerve in her body scream to run. Emily's skin prickled, feeling the weight of unseen eyes on her. "Jake, we have to go," she gasped. But as she turned to look at him, she noticed something flickering in his gaze, a certain glow she'd never seen before. Something was different. "Emily," he murmured, strength sapping from his voice. Then time slowed. The world peeled away as Jake shifted his weight, and she saw it. A small oval shape nestled in his palm, catching the flickering light like a jewel. Her breath hitched. It was a device, nothing she had ever seen before, pulsing softly with a strange energy. "Jake, what is that?" Panic surged again. "I didn't ask for this," he exclaimed. "But they're coming for it. They want it. And they'll do anything to get it." Suddenly, the woman in the dark coat stepped closer. Her face a mask of calm, yet her eyes glittered like shards of ice. "End this, Jake. You have to hand it over. You know what that means," she said, voice smooth and sinister. Emily felt bile rise in her throat. "No, you can't let them take you. You're not leaving me." He looked torn, eyes darting between the chaos and the woman's cold stare. "I have to, Em. I have to protect you." A loud crash echoed nearby, followed by shrieks and the thunder of boots. The janitor's grip on her arm tightened, urging her to flee. "Now, this way!" But she couldn't move. Fear anchored her in place. Jake's grip on the device tightened, a strange resolve reflected in his eyes. "You have to believe me! I have to end this now! For us!" Emily felt the ground shift beneath her. "What are you saying? What do you mean?" And then Jacob slammed the device onto the ground, a blinding flash erupting around them. Light burst forth, enveloping them in a brilliant storm, each breath heavy with electric anticipation. When it cleared, the space felt different, colder. Jake looked up, the flickering energy fading from between his fingers. "What did you do?" she whispered, the shock hitting like a wave. "It was never about me, Emily," he said, voice strained. "It was always about you." A chill crept across Emily's skin. The truth sunk in, swirling like smoke around her. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, the weight of the world shifted, and with a gasp, she realized she wasn't just running from danger. She was the key, an unwanted secret, the reason for everything. And she felt every pair of eyes in the room lock onto her. A dark laughter echoed from the shadows. "You think you can hide forever?" The woman's voice slithered through the air. "The time has come for the truth to be revealed." Frozen in shock, Emily's heart thundered. What did they want her for? What truth slept beneath the surface, waiting to break free? In that flickering moment, the entire world tilted, and nothing would ever be the same again. Emily stood there, heart racing, confusion clouding her mind. The dark figure's chilling laughter felt like ice slipping down her spine. The truth to be revealed. What did that even mean? Jake's breathing quickened beside her. She could see the beads of sweat on his forehead, fear etched across his features. "You have to understand," he urged. "They want what's inside me. They'll do anything to get it." "What's inside you?" Panic bubbled within her. "What are you talking about?" Before he could answer, the ground shook again, vibrations pulsing up through her feet. The air crackled, thick with tension. Shadows pooled around them, and Emily felt something shift. A whisper of darkness creeping toward her. "Enough of this!" the woman in the coat said, stepping closer. "You can't hide from your reality. Hand over the device." But Jake stood firm, eyes blazing. "No, you can't take this from me. I won't let you." "They'll find you, Jake," Mr. Thompson shouted, glancing anxiously back into the approaching darkness. "You need to make a choice." Suddenly, Jake's eyes widened. The pulse of the device felt familiar, imbued with a warmth that seemed to ignite a fire in his core. "I can't let them control us," he shouted, his voice echoing with newfound strength. The air thickened again, the tension escalating. Emily clung to Jake's arm, terrified, desperate to keep him safe. "What does that even mean?" In a split second, everything shifted. Light danced from the device, glowing fiercely before launching outward in a blinding surge. The crowd fell silent. People frozen in place as the energy exploded, sending a surge of brilliant color radiating outward. Then the world darkened. When the light faded, The scene shifted. Emily blinked, trying to process what had happened. It felt different. She turned to find herself in a different world entirely. The church was gone, replaced by a vibrant field, bathed in golden sunlight, flowers blooming all around. It was surreal. But then she saw them, figures, hooded and masked, emerging from the trees, their eyes glinting with intent. "Jake!" she cried, panic seizing her heart. The hooded figures didn't speak, but rushed toward them. Emily felt the ground shift again. But it wasn't just her mind playing tricks. It was something deeper, something raw. She could almost hear whispers among them, a connection, a collective understanding. But the fragments of a shattered past rushed through her mind. Memories that felt foreign yet familiar, secrets long buried began to dredge up, ripping through the surface like water breaking through cracked earth. Jake shook his head as if trying to clear away fog. "This isn't how it's supposed to be. This isn't just about you anymore. You need to know." "What?" Tears spilled down Emily's face. "What do I need to know?" And then, with a piercing scream that seemed to erupt from the very core of everything, Jake's form began to flicker. "Jake!" Her heart fell as she reached for him, but he began to dissolve into the air, his body becoming one with the shifting light surrounding them. "No, Jake!" The desperation echoed through the field, her voice raw with fear. As Jake's face vanished, she caught a glimpse of something frightening in his eyes, a fleeting realization that shattered her world. It was a truth that buzzed beneath the surface of everything she thought she understood. "Emily, listen!" His voice came as a whisper, echoing around her. But then it split, turning to a sound that sent chills down her spine. "You were never meant to be just a girl." All at once, the world threw her back into darkness as the whispers of past lives enveloped her. The truth roared in her ears, heavy and relentless. Who was she really? And what secrets lay beneath the surface, waiting to break free? In that moment, everything she believed shattered. What did Jake mean? Was she part of something bigger or something darker? Her heart ached with the weight of it all. "Please," she whimpered, "don't leave me." But there was only silence now. The weight of unanswered questions pressing down. As the hooded figures closed in on her, a chilling certainty settled deep within. No matter what came next, the truth was about to unfurl in ways she could never imagine. What would it reveal? Emily stood in a field awash with strange sunlight, heart thumping against her ribs. The hooded figures enclosed her, their silence thick and heavy. Each second felt stretched, the air shimmering with tension. Jake had vanished, leaving behind echoes of his last words, swirling like shadows in her mind. "Emily." His voice lingered in her ears. "You were never meant to be just a girl." Panic gripped her. What did that even mean? The world felt wrong, a dream teetering on the edge of night. She reached out to the space where Jake had stood, fingers trembling, hoping to grasp some part of him, something solid that could anchor her in this madness. "Get the girl!" A command echoed, spiking her fear to a new height. They wanted her, but why? She blinked, trying to dispel the haze that fogged her thoughts. The figures were advancing, their footsteps swift and silent, urgency woven into their movements. The atmosphere buzzed with murmurs that slid across her skin like icy fingers. "Jake!" she yelled, scanning the area. "Where are you?" But only silence answered, a heavy void that drowned her cries. Then something shifted. The figures stopped moving, their heads tilting in unison towards the edge of the field. She followed their gazes. A glimmer of light flickered, piercing through the thick foliage, a trembling, shimmering shape that drew closer. What was it? Hope? Fear? All she could do was watch, heart racing. Suddenly, without warning, the earth shuddered beneath her feet. An explosion of light erupted before her eyes, blinding and brilliant. She shielded her face, jaw slack with disbelief, and then the figure emerged from the light and Emily's stomach dropped. Jake stood there, but he wasn't alone. He was flanked by their parents, their faces pale, eyes wide with horror. "Jake! Mom! Dad!" she gasped, relief and confusion colliding in her chest. "Emily?" her mother screamed, but the sound was laced with panic she didn't understand. "Get away from him!" A sickening chill climbed Emily's spine as Jake's expression turned grim. "Stay back! They don't understand!" "What?" She looked from her parents to Jake, her heart twisting in her chest. "What's going on?" But before he could answer, the dark figures surged forward, brandishing shadowy weapons glinting in the light. Emily's pulse raced as she felt the ground shake again, the urgency of the moment clawing at her senses. "Emily?" "Ha ha 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 ha!" Jake shouted, urgency rising in his voice. "You have to trust me. They want you because of what you are. You can't let them take you." His words struck like a dagger, and a bolt of realization coursed through her veins. What am I? The question felt heavy, almost suffocating. A sudden gunfire rang out. A deafening blast filled the air, echoing sharply off the trees. A gasp pierced the wind, and Emily's breath caught in her throat as she turned to see one of the figures stagger and fall. Shock ripped through the crowd, confusion swirling like leaves in a storm. The hooded figures reeled back, eyes wide, fear creeping onto their masked faces. "Go!" Jake yelled, grabbing her hand. "Run!" But everything twisted as confusion turned to chaos. The person on the ground was their father, blood blooming across his shirt. Emily's heart shattered as realization kicked in. He'd been shot. "Dad!" she screamed, the world spiraling out of control. "No!" Her mother rushed to him, eyes filled with terror. "Call for help!" she shouted, cradling their father's head, desperation fueling her movements. Emily felt frozen. Caught in a nightmare of her own making, Jake squeezed her hand, the panic in his eyes mirroring hers. "We can't stay here. We have to face the truth together." "Face the truth?" she echoed, confusion swirling. "Truth? What truth?" "It's about time you understood, Emily," Jake said, urgency punctuating his words. "You're not just Emily. You're part of this legacy. It's bigger than all of us." "But we're just kids," she cried, heart pounding, fear spilling over. A sudden flicker of recognition washed over her as her mind raced. The hooded figures weren't just threats. They were guardians, protectors of a truth whose time had come. In that moment, as another shot rang out, clarity emerged from the chaos. What if they weren't just trying to take her? What if they were trying to save her from something even worse? The truth surged forward, sharp as glass, leaving her reeling. What lay ahead in this tangled web of secrets and lies? What was the price of revelation? It loomed heavy, a dark whisper on the wind, and she was caught in its pull. Without a second thought, she turned to Jake, determination igniting within her. Then let's face it, together. But just as they stepped forward, a piercing alarm shattered the air, drowning everything in urgency. Time to decide. Would they embrace the truth, or would the darkness swallow them whole? Emily stood frozen, Jake gripping her hand tightly. The chaos around them surged like a storm, but the gravity of his words anchored her in place. "You're not just a girl," he implored, urgency wrapping around each syllable. "You must understand, this isn't just about us anymore. It's about the future." But then, everything changed. The air filled with the crack of another gunshot, and the crowd erupted into a frantic stampede. A rush of bodies surged, jostling Emily as panic spread like wildfire. She looked at Jake, fear twisting her stomach. "What do we do?" Before he could answer, the hooded figures advanced again, shadows looming larger, faces hidden beneath their masks. Anxiety raced through her veins, tightening her chest. "Jake!" she shouted, trying to navigate through swirling uncertainty. And then it happened. The ground beneath them shook violently, the earth quaking like it was alive. "What's happening?" Emily screamed, clutching Jake's arm. In an instant, the shadows pushed against one another, gathering in a menacing wave. With a snap, a flash exploded, blinding and bright, causing Emily to shield her eyes. The world turned white, an overwhelming burst of heat and light enveloping her. When the glare subsided, Emily blinked against the dimming radiance. She stood in a different place entirely, a massive field surrounded by tall, dark trees. The only sound was her own heart pounding in her ears. And then she saw them. Hooded figures had transformed into otherworldly beings, their faces no longer obscured, but revealing grotesque features. They were neither human nor animal, a terrifying morph of both. Fear rippled through Emily, visceral and raw. She stumbled back, searching for Jake. "Jake!" she shouted. "Where are you?" But he was gone. Instead, in his place stood her parents, familiar yet frightening. "Emily!" her mother cried, face twisted in horror. "You shouldn't be here." "What do you mean?" Confusion tangled with anxiety. "Where's Jake? What's happening?" Her father stepped forward, gazing at her with a mix of love and pity. "You must know the truth, Em. It's why they've come." The words loaded the air with a tension that crackled like electricity. "The truth?" Before either of them could elaborate, the grotesque figures lunged, their movements blurring in a way that defied comprehension, as if they were made of smoke. "Get back!" Her mother screamed, but it was too late. One of the figures shot forward, piercing through the crowd and targeting Emily with a gaze so intense it set her soul ablaze. Give her to us, it screeched, voice thick with malice. In that moment, the ground shook again. Emily's thoughts raced, panic spiraling, but then something deep inside her snapped. She felt a rush of energy coursing from her core into her limbs. The realization hit her like a bolt. She was not merely reacting. She was a part of it all. "Stop!" she called, voice cutting through the chaos. The air around her shimmered as if charged with power. "You don't understand!" Suddenly, an explosion of blinding light erupted from her. A surge of warmth flowed, washing away her fear, enveloping her in a radiant glow. "Emily!" her parents shouted, but their voices faded into nothing. When the brightness cleared, she found herself back in the church with all her family around her. The entire congregation in frozen shock. Emily felt different, raw nerves lighting up as she looked at her brother, standing tall, eyes not filled with fear, but with something deeper. And then the twist hit her like a tidal wave. There stood not just Jake. There was someone else, the woman in the dark coat, now unmasked, revealing a face that mirrored Emily's own. The shock shattered her reality. "What? Who are you?" A sad smile crept across the woman's lips. "I'm you, Emily. The you that could have been. The you that remains." The weight of those words invoked a tremor through her. Everything she thought she knew crumbled like dry leaves. What did this mean? Her heart raced, questions swirling. The truth loomed, dark and intricate, and she was caught right in the middle as the rhythm of chaos twisted around her. Would she embrace this truth, or would it consume her? Emily stood there, heart racing, the reality of Jake's words echoing in her mind. The woman who looked like her? Was she really a part of her? Confusion flooded her senses as she tried to make sense of the shadows closing in around her. The congregation watched, breath held, every eye fixed on them. Tension curled in the air like smoke. "What does this mean?" Emily asked, voice trembling. "Why are you here?" The woman smiled sadly, her gaze piercing. "To show you the truth, Emily. You're destined for something greater." But before Emily could respond, the ground trembled again, and the church shook with a violent force. A blaring alarm pierced the air, jolting everyone into a frenzy. The pews rattled and heavy cracks spread along the walls, as if the very foundation was giving way. "What's happening?" she cried, struggling to keep her balance. Her parents' faces topple in fear, uncertainty shadowing their eyes, mirroring her own panic. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged, cloaked in darkness. A man, tall and imposing, stepped into the chaos, a firestorm in his gaze. "Enough of this!" he shouted, voice booming and commanding. "Stay back!" Jake yelled, pushing Emily behind him. But the man ignored them, eyes locked on the woman who looked like Emily. "Do you really think you can protect her?" he sneered, dark confidence radiating from him. "She needs to learn the truth." With a flick of his wrist, he unleashed a wave of energy rippling through the air like an electric charge. The world around them crackled, shadows swirling violently. And suddenly, everything burst into light, blinding them all for an instant. When the brilliance faded, Emily found herself standing in a vast, empty void. Not the church anymore, just darkness stretching infinitely around her. Panic clawed at her chest. "Jake! Mom? Dad!" she screamed. But no one responded, silence swallowing her cries. And then she felt it. A tug inside, a connection binding her to the people in the void. In that moment, memories flickered like stars, spinning and colliding. Fragments of laughter, whispers of secrets, everything she had ever known expanded and burst apart. "No!" she gasped, realization crashing over her like a tidal wave. "This isn't just about me or Jake." Then the darkness folded into itself, and she was back in the church, but everything had changed. The people who had once stood as pillars of support were now shadows of their former selves. They were not just her family. They were part of a greater design, hidden plans entangled in webs of deception. "Emily!" Jake's voice broke through the chaos, desperate. "Listen to me!" "What are you hiding from me?" She could hardly breathe, heart pounding. "You've all been lying." "You don't understand," the woman said, urgency wrapping around her words. "You hold the key to all of this. The truth runs deeper than you realize." And then a deafening explosion shattered the air. A blast from outside echoing through the halls, rattling the very walls. Glass shattered. People screamed. "Emily, get down!" her mother cried. But it was too late. The door burst open, and chaos flooded in. Figures in uniforms poured inside, faces masked, eyes fierce with purpose. In that moment, shock turned to horror. The truth hit hard. This wasn't an accident. They hadn't just come for her. They had come for everyone. Their eyes roamed eagerly, searching for something. Her heart raced as she realized they weren't just after secrets. They wanted control. As the chaos erupted all around her, Emily felt a surge of power, stronger than before, swirling inside her like a storm. "Stop!" she shouted, voice cutting through the tumult. The masked figures hesitated, drawn to her voice. In that space of hesitation, the woman who looked like her stepped forward, face determined. "You can't take her!" she said, and for the first time, Emily saw something else. Fear reflected in those familiar eyes. "What have you all done?" Emily breathed, stomach twisting with the weight of revelation. "What is the price of this truth?" But before anyone could answer, another explosion rocked the earth, and the ground beneath them cracked wide open, swallowing everything into darkness. Emily felt herself being pulled into the abyss. Her scream echoed as the darkness surged around her. And she realized everything she thought she knew was on the verge of shattering. What awaited her in this unknown? Would she find out the truth? Or would she become another victim in the game they were playing? The question loomed, heavy and urgent. A mystery she could not escape. Emily stumbled in the darkness, feeling the heat of panic wash over her. The ground beneath her was cracking wide open, shadows swirling like angry spirits around her. The masked figures advanced, their cold gazes fixed on her. Heart pounding, she felt something shift inside. "Jake!" she called out again, desperation clawing at her throat. But only silence answered, suffocating and heavy. The world felt unreal. With a sudden flash, the darkness burst into sparkling light. Everything around her shifted, the shadows evaporating. She blinked, finding herself back in the church. But it was different now. People were frozen, eyes wide with shock, mouths agape. The woman who looked like her was still there, standing tall. "Emily!" she cried. "You must remember!" "Remember what?" Emily gasped, confusion flooding her. "What's happening? What? Does everyone look at me like that?" "Because," the woman stepped closer, urgency in her voice, "you carry the legacy. You're more than just a girl. You must choose what happens next." "Choose?" Her heart raced. "What do you mean?" The panic escalated outside the church. Voices cried out. A siren wailed in the distance. People ran for the exits, but fear held Emily firmly in place. Then she turned to find Jake, scrambling on the floor, injured but alive. "Jake," she breathed, relief washing over her in a wave. "You're okay." "Get up, we need to leave," he gasped, struggling to his feet. His face was pale, but determination ignited in his eyes. "They're going to come for you. We have to go now." "What about Mom and Dad?" Emily felt torn, wanting to help, yet the urging sense of danger gnawed at her. "They'll be fine," Jake insisted. "You're the one they want. We can't let them capture you." Before she could respond, the cloaked figures entered the church, their movements swift, cold. They surrounded them, closing in, drawing closer with every heartbeat. An electric pulse filled the air, suffocating. But Emily felt a flicker of something within. "Stop!" she shouted, a sudden power surging through her. It sparked like fireworks, setting aflame the darkness around them. "What?" One figure barked, recoiling. Emily's defiance sparked a light, illuminating their evil intentions. "You won't take anyone. I refuse to be part of your plan." She breathed, her voice steady and fierce. The air around her shifted, rippling with energy. The masked figures hesitated, then recoiled from her strength. Confusion etched across their faces. In that moment, Emily felt the boundaries of her fear melt away, replaced with an overwhelming embrace of hope. Then, brighter than ever, the light exploded from her core, pushing the shadows back. The cloaked figures quivered, their forms wavering. Emily didn't just want to fight, she wanted to protect those she loved. "This ends now," she cried out, more convinced than ever, and with a pulse of energy like the sun rising. The figures faltered and dissolved into light, vanishing entirely. The church became silent, then erupted in cheers from the congregation, voices mingling in awe and disbelief. "Did we win?" Jake questioned, looking at his sister with wide eyes, wonder etched in every feature. "Yes, we did!" Emily replied, exhilarated, wrapping her arms around him. Their parents rushed forward, joy mingling with relief. "You did it, Emily!" their mother exclaimed, tears of pride flowing down her cheeks. Emily felt a warmth in her chest, surrounded by love. "I couldn't have done it without you all!" As they soaked in the relief, a new silence enveloped them. Emily suddenly wondered, what would they do next? The future stretched out like an empty canvas, full of possibilities and unknowns. "Maybe it's just the beginning," Jake murmured, excitement sparking in his eyes. And with that, they stepped into the next chapter together. before the final shadows slipped away completely, an instinct pulled at Emily. "Remember this moment," she whispered to herself, "and never lose the truth of who you are." But as they turned to leave, another question remained. What would their world look like now? Hey! Before you go, you must subscribe immediately to the channel. You don't want to miss the next exclusive stories we're sharing. Trust me, this is the time to show your support. Press the like button now to feed the algorithm and help spread these tales far and wide. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear from each of you. And don't wait 1 second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Your engagement makes all the difference.